Welcome to Bold Conscious Connections. My name is Raju Panjwani, and I'm a certified leadership coach.
And I'm Trisha Ramos, a certified high performance coach. Together, we help business leaders redefine success on their terms to create more space and energy so that they live impactful lives.
Everyone wants to be seen, heard, and understood. So, at a deeper level, we know that the collective consciousness is important to raise in this world, and leaders who are influencers can make that difference. We, in our coaching programs, teach people how to focus on the interconnectedness, heart centeredness, and growth from within. And this is what this podcast will be about.
So stay tuned and subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts.
Talk to you very soon. Hey, Arie, welcome to this podcast. We've been friends for a while, but I want to introduce you to our audience. So why don't you just take a few seconds to tell them who you are?
I am a personal friend of Raju from a previous life in banking. But for the benefit of this discussion, I and all of us are consciousness-related beings and cyclical magnets who attract everything we think, everything we say, everything we feel, and everything we do through the law of cause and effect. So with that in mind, you can take everything that is said in this podcast with a grain of salt.
Beautiful.
Well, it leaves it open to possibilities. So that's a great way to start this conversation.
Yes.
All right, let's go.
So welcome, Arie. It's been such an amazing journey for me to get to know you over these years. And truly, you've been a dream, as I was telling Trisha earlier, you've been a dream of mine to have on some platform of this kind. We had no idea when we were going to start these podcasts, but we went back to look, and you were, we began thinking about this in August, so almost 4 months ago. And so for me, thank you. And I think it's fair to say it's a dream come true for me. So appreciate you being here.
It's a pleasure being here. Thank you both for the invite.
Yes, and thank you for your friendship. So, behind us, it says Bold and Conscious 2021. So we did a live event on Friday, 2 hours. So as I said, our mission is about, empowering bold and courageous leaders to take action that's inspired from the heart, and so they can go make the difference to the world. And so this podcast is just one of the many ways that we reach out to people. So the first question I really have for you, and before, do you have anything you want to start with, Trisha? I'm sorry.
No, we're good.
Is when the word bold is spoken, what does that mean to you, and why do you think it's important, not just in your work, but in the workplace today?
To me, the word bold suggests a call for being fearless, daring, audacious, to take risk in life, to push beyond the comfort zone, and to test the limits of what you're capable of, what's possible, and to make new mistakes. Try not repeating them, but to be bold enough to take them and to make them, That's what that means to me.
So in the context of, not just 2021, there's circumstantial stuff that happens all the time. It's just that this one time it enveloped the whole world. So, there is a lot of conversations going on about, who we are, why we're here all of a sudden, as if this was a new thing to ponder. And then there is conversations about future of work. What does it mean? How will I survive? How will I thrive? Where do you come out on in the context of what you just said about being fearless, right? What does that mean for those people who lead businesses or divisions and whose industries have just gone, poof overnight? What should they be thinking about when it comes to being fearless, and how do you transition to that?
Well, the world has changed in a big way, but that's not new. Everybody knows the cliche statement that the only constant thing in life is change, but most people work very hard to create routines and patterns, whether they be good or bad patterns, to instill the illusion of the opposite of change. So many people dislike change that many of the things we do in life are based around the idea of creating permanence. And so I believe the biggest lesson we could learn in life with regards to COVID is to be adaptable, to recognize the change is inevitable. But because that's not a new realization, I guess what's new is that sometimes change can be big and sometimes change can be global. And sometimes it could be something very small that tips the entire direction of a people in a different direction. So sometimes it takes one person to change the direction of the entire world.
Yeah.
And that could be someone listening to this podcast. And if it isn't one person to change the direction of the entire planet, it could be that one person that changed another person's life. So yeah, change is inevitable. Adapting to change is a strength. Being flexible and nimble to receive the change, and the more positive attitude in the face of change, instead of looking at it as an ending, one can choose to see it as a new beginning, which in fact it's both. It's an ending and it's a new beginning. But that subtlety is quite meaningful. It's similar to leaving New York to move to New Jersey, or moving to New Jersey because you're leaving New York. So even though the act is the same, the motivation and the intention is completely different. If you're running away from something, that something will come with you. If you're moving towards something, that means you have evolved from that which you're moving away from, and therefore it's unlikely that it will come with you. So yeah, change is a positive. We're always changing. Physics says that our body changes every 7 years. We get a new entire body, right? Atomically.
Yeah.
Consciousness-wise, there are 7 stages of human evolution: spiritually, energetically. So change is as inevitable as life and death. So.
So from your perspective, from where you sit, Arie, I loved what you were saying about moving towards something versus running away from something. So from where you sit and what you've observed with what is really important for leaders to keep in mind, having had the year we just had and moving into this new calendar year of 2021, what would you say are, let's say, maybe 3 things for leaders to be more conscious about as far as moving towards something and letting go or moving away from what no longer works? What would those 3 things be, or ideas, thoughts that you would share?
Well, that would depend on the context of leadership, and whether it was spiritual leadership, financial leadership, economic leadership, political leadership, healthcare leadership. So every leader has to contextualize the environment and the people they're leading. I guess the most important factor is the people. I think that is the number one factor, to take stock in who within the group of people that you're leading are leaders, and who within the group of people that you're leading are followers. Are you leading leaders, or are you leading followers? Mm-hmm. Usually it'll probably be a combination of both, but do you have immediately below you or next to you a group of followers that are yes men and women? Or do you have immediately next to you a group of leaders that you're leading? That makes a very big difference. Also, are you hiring people to tell you what to do? Or are you hiring people so you could tell them what to do? And are you paying attention to the effects of your actions, not just within your organization, but within the marketplace that you are allegedly serving? Are you being true to the cause you claim to be effectuating, or are you failing to deliver the promise you sold? So, yeah, I would be very focused on the people. I think we, the people, are the value. We, the people, are the ultimate value. And any leader who fails to recognize the value of its team, fails to recognize the value of life. Not sure that I gave you 3 reasons exactly there, but I've never enumerated them like that before.
I think it's beautiful to begin with that idea and appreciate, you presenting it's either you're doing this or you're not doing that, you're doing this, and it's bringing awareness to really what leadership is about. It's about empowering others, and it isn't just about having people around you following. I love what you said. Are you leading leaders, or are you leading followers? Because certainly in this new year, if we're going to figure something out, create something better than what we left behind, it would require that level of participation from everyone. And so being mindful of who you choose to be on your teams, and then creating the opportunities for them to be able to actually play in that space in a way that they're able to do it well, I think is important for leaders to step into. So that's one, people. And even though there are all these different industries and different spaces, listening to you, it really is, it's universal, a lot of these concepts. And when you get beyond the people part, what would you say is the second thing that's important?
A positive mental attitude. So understanding the inexorable and inescapable law of causality, one must have a positive mental attitude. And I don't mean to be a Pollyanna, and I don't mean to be, don't worry, be happy. I mean to ground yourself in a neutral place and lean towards being positive. So a negative thought comes in. If you cannot flip it into a positive thought, you should make an effort to neutralize it. If a positive thought comes in, be sure to ground it and then let it fly. Excessive positivity is no better than excess negativity. There has to be a grounding. And I think that thoughts, positive mental attitude, and positive thinking must be grounded in neutrality. And I think that that neutral positive equalization creates for unavoidable neutral positive consequences.
That's so beautifully said.
Yes.
We did this on Friday. We call this the one side of a column is a frequency, the energy, and then the other side is the emotion you feel. And what you were just saying about the neutrality, and then when you're feeling the negative emotion, what do you do to get grounded in that in that middle? So we refer to that as the line of courage, or the bold line that you need to be at, so that you can be at least have a chance at flying in the other direction. Otherwise, you're going to go deep into the rabbit hole. But anyway, so I'm just that just resonated with me so much.
Yeah, I think most people fail to understand or recognize and even experience the might of their thoughts. Thoughts are so much more powerful than we have as a society on earth come to understand en masse, albeit there are a few elites who understand it all too well, better than I would like. But thoughts are what give way to how we feel. Thoughts are creative, powerful, constructive, productive, and always successful. And the law of causality guarantees its success. So if we do well in taking care of ourselves first, and to mind our thoughts in a neutral, positive, equalized manner, there is a guarantee that a successful consequence from there will produce neutral, positive, equalized results inexorably.
Mm.
So if one is doing that internally, it is very likely that one's feelings, one's words, and one's actions will follow suit. And what a wonderful world it would be if everyone took care of their own internal garden in such a way. We'd have a paradise all over, because everybody would be in the same place. I mean, not that everyone would be equal, but everybody would be minding their garden. And the fruits would all be different, but in general, they will all be neutral, positive, and equalized. And variety of fruits, always great. Tropical fruits, not the same as strawberries and blueberries, but they're all fruits and they're all delicious. So I guess, yeah. So the second thing would be to be very, very, very mindful of your thoughts, because they create the feelings which cause the consequences and lead to actions and your words, in general, the environment that we live in. So it all starts with our thoughts.
So can I just ask you to clarify? So it all starts with thoughts and emotions. So you talked about the positive neutrality and then positive, but the flip side would also be true, right?
So if you have negative thoughts, you'll guarantee yourself to have negative consequences for sure.
Correct. So
inexorably.
So that's the causality.
Causality. Thoughts are creative.
Mm-hmm.
And because they are creative and they live inside this matrix we call the universe, and the universe has an inexorable law, which is called the law of causality. Mm-hmm. You put a thought into the matrix and the matrix guarantees a consequence. Mm-hmm. The matrix doesn't care if the thought is positive or negative or neutral. The matrix is an actuator.
Yep.
It's an accelerant. It's a success magnet. Mm-hmm. You give it an input and it will guarantee you an output.
Speaking of yes man, your yes woman, or that is, you're describing that is that our subconscious is gonna produce, mm-hmm. gonna work itself out so that we do create whatever it is we're focused on. Yep. Before we go to the third idea, what are some of the ways that what are some of your own personal practices that you're able to share with us on how you can be more mindful of your thoughts? And, we love this because this is really, the conscious piece of what we're talking about. What are some of your own personal practices for our listeners who are listening, and perhaps they have a level of awareness about this idea, but perhaps maybe they would like a little bit more ideas or direction on how they can begin to be even more mindful about the thoughts that they're thinking?
So like everything, it requires exercise. It requires practice. It's a process. For some people, it's easier than for others. For some people, it's faster than for others. And for some people, it's more necessary than for others. But I guess there are three fundamental, pragmatic, practical, and simple things we can do to start the process. And the first one is to work towards a practice every day in the mornings, if possible, lead up to every day. to concentrate, do a concentration exercise every morning after you rise. It could be after your shower, it could be whilst you're having your cup of joe, it could be sitting in a lotus position, it could be sitting in your office, it could be looking out the window, it could be standing barefoot watching your dog play. It doesn't really matter. What's important is that you dedicate at least 20 minutes every day, shortly after or soon after you have woken up, to concentrate on one thing. It could be to concentrate on your breath. It could be to concentrate on a branch. It could be to concentrate on anything. Honestly, the idea is to start developing your mental capacity to concentrate and focus on one thing. Without allowing the distraction of the subconscious to invade your conscious mind, and to distract it with all the noise, the racing thoughts, and what have you. So learning how to concentrate and developing the capacity and the muscle for concentration requires time, just like working out, developing abs. I mean, it's as hard as getting a six-pack of abs. You know, all men want to get a six-pack, and 99% of them fail because it's freaking hard. I mean, it's probably one of the most difficult muscle groups to get tight, right? And most of us just fail to get there. But concentration is that good. Learning how to concentrate is as good as how good a six-pack looks on a well-toned male. So I guess learning to concentrate and doing the work to get there has its challenges, but its rewards are orders of magnitude more than I could possibly describe. So concentration exercises every day for the rest of our lives. It's not like taking pill, you're no longer sick and now you're better. Oh, I learned how to concentrate. So no, once you've gotten to the point where concentrating is as easy as flipping a switch, you're ready for the next level, and then the next level, and then the next level. And then soon after this, you'll find yourself being able to go into a concentration exercise and sitting or being completely focused for however long you choose. And that level of mastery has no limit, it has no ceiling, and it has no end. So, you know, sky is the limit, and the only thing that ends it is death. But that's a completely different subject. So that's the first thing. I think the second thing would be to practice throughout the day moments of compassion. So I guess you could call it compassion meditation or compassion attention, or just to regroup whenever you have a moment and just find the time or the space within yourself to have some compassion for whatever, to think about the people who are struggling in the world, and to find a place of compassion within you, to think of a relative who's going through a hard time and have some compassion for them, to think of the millions of people on earth who are afflicted by torture and oppression and countless afflictions, and feel compassion for them, to have compassion for animals, to have compassion for the earth, for nature. There's so many things we can be compassionate for. We can feel compassion for ourselves in many cases. So compassion is a derivative of love, love being the principle of all principles. But to tell someone to feel love is just too general. So to focus it on an application like compassion allows for the softening of one's hardened indifference. And I think that hardened indifference is it's kind of like a virus, and compassion allows for the softening to perpetuate. So that's the second thing. I believe I've lost connection.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, there you are.
Sorry about that. The
I don't know.
Wi-Fi just cut out, Arie, and
No worries. No worries.
it's always when the frequency is so high in the love. You are just really talking about love.
Zoom.
Yes. It was too much for Zoom. You know, I don't know how much we missed in the gap of what you were still saying, but I really love the moments of compassion. That resonates with me because compassion is one of my 3 words for 2021. And compassion, last year, one of the lessons I learned was to judge less, you practice more compassion. And, you know, I think judgment, when we want to stop doing something, it's so easy to just say, well, just stop judging. But there's got to be something to replace whatever you're stopping to think or stopping to do or stopping to behave. And last year, I learned that really replacing judgment with compassion was a way to get me to drop into that heart space, to feel connected to myself so I could feel connected to the situation I'm judging, whether it's myself. Because typically if we're judging others, it's because we're judging ourselves in some way, right? And so what you just shared about having this moment of compassion and really thinking intentionally about who is out there, what is going on out there that people are contending with. It really, that's something I love. I'm going to have to add that to my rituals. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
And I will take the 6-pack analogy, because you have the 6-pack and then what? You want to maintain it. You got to
keep it.
Practice it.
You have to keep it. You have to keep it. The thing about practicing compassion is that that's something you can do all day in bursts. You could do it for 3 minutes here, 2 minutes there. You can do it when you're walking up or down the street, when you buy your coffee, wherever you buy your coffee, or if you bump into someone on the subway or they bump into you. When you're waiting for the elevator or getting into one. So many different moments. Somebody honks the horn on the highway, you're putting gasoline in the car, so many life moments. And the beauty about it is that your concentration meditation in the morning allows for you to have the wherewithal to focus on this one thing in little packets throughout the day. So the more you're able to concentrate, the more likely you are to remember to feel compassion and to bring it forward into your conscious mind. I once read that the conscious mind is like the RAM memory of a computer, and the subconscious mind is like the hard drive.
The hard drive, yeah.
Hard drive is infinitely more powerful, and the RAM is orders of magnitude less powerful. So how can you reprogram the hard drive from the RAM memory? It's very hard. So it takes time to start depositing new thoughts into the hard drive so that you fill the hard drive with so much new input that it has to get rid of old data that is no longer being used. And, we are magnetic, electric energy beings. And so we function pretty much similar to that. So the less you use a feeling and an emotion, the more corrupt it gets, and the less your subconscious will be able to access it and send it up to your conscious mind. So the more compassion you practice, the more compassion you embed into your subconscious, and the more your subconscious might access that. So it's kind of a positive feedback loop.
Mm-hmm.
Beautifully said. Awesome.
It
So
also made me it also made me think of compassion. You know, we often talk about compassion is the initial thing that's got to exist before forgiveness occurs, before you can release something, you know, like releasing what no longer serves you. So if it's compassion, forgiveness, release, this is really, to your point, it's really going to keep that loop healthy, because that is what allows the, you know, that opening. I guess there's less blocking that's happening, because when you are releasing, and there's space for the renewal, you know, or the rejuvenation. In the spirit of the new year, these words are like everywhere right now. So the compassion is huge.
So you got 2 C's now, Ari. You said the first one was concentration. The second is compassion. Is there a third C, or?
No, it's not. The third one is at the end of the day, before bedtime. And I guess it would be a nice culmination of every day to practice a summary analysis of your day, to recapitulate on your day's events, challenges that you faced where you reacted generally poorly, challenges you faced where you responded positively, moments that you could have been more compassionate where you weren't, opportunities you could have taken that you chose not to, or you were afraid to. In general, a 20-minute analysis of the highlights of your day is super helpful. And if we were able to go to bed with that analysis, it is almost certain that over time you will bring that analysis into your dream space, and you will be able to work a lot of that out in your dream state, only to wake up the next morning with an introspection or a cumulative compounding that will add to who you are becoming. And so then your concentration exercise in the morning will be the result of your previous day's successes. And then the concentration in the morning will be easier. Your compassion practice throughout the day will be more fulfilling, and your analysis at the end of the day will be deeper. I studied under a woman 20 years ago who told me that if we were able to reverse our day from the last thing that happened all the way through to the first thing that happened when we woke up in the morning, as though we were rewinding a tape, and to be conscious of doing that very fast, that we would arrive at enlightenment. So obviously the chances are minuscule that any of us will ever be able to do that instantly. But you know, when we dream, space and time don't answer to the same limitations that they do when we're awake, because the dream state belongs to the realm of the spiritual, which doesn't have a space and time limitation. So dreams happen at the speed that exists on the other side, and that's not governed by the same limitations of matter. It doesn't travel at the speed of light. It travels at the speed of thought. And so technically we should be able to rewind the whole day in a matter of seconds. If we can go into a concentration mode, tap into that part of us that is our consciousness, and analyze our day. And so those three things I think are super simple to understand, very hard to do, but anyone can comprehend them. Anyone can choose to do them at any measure, in any capacity, and for all intents and purposes, it applies to any language, any race, any sex, any age. It should be taught in schools. It should be given to the elderly. It should be given to people who are going through difficult times, and it should be given to people who just want to get better from where they are. It's not judgmental. It's like completely empowering. It empowers everyone. So those three simple practices, I think, on a day-to-day basis, over time, will empower us to have more control over our thoughts. And the more control you have over your thoughts, the better your life could be, because causality will successfully produce a result. So if you concentrate and you practice compassion and you analyze your day, those three things will produce within you the capacity to have control over your thoughts. And having control over your thoughts produces a better inner world and a better external reality. So
sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that whole bit is beautifully expressed and in the spirit of the seas. Here is how you create the cycle of a positive mental attitude, and sharing your three tips there, which really truly powerful, universal, timeless, and people listening to this, I can feel already the immense impact that this is going to have on our audience. And so what would be your third? So we talked about people, positive mental attitude.
Now we're on to peas, it looks like.
What would be the third idea for leaders today?
Well, I think I'm going to take it to an extreme, because I think this is also a universal factor. And I think that that's our relationship to dying. There is a tremendous amount of fear around death. There is a deep rooted psychical and psychological and personality driven human condition that shapes who we are and what we do in and around death. So this conversation is not trivial, and I'm not trying to trivialize death, especially for those who have left suddenly and or because of an illness. But if we allowed ourselves to imagine for a moment that our consciousness that enlivens this lifetime and personality that is you or I was similar to you waking up in the morning, having an amazing, magnificent day, not wanting the day to end because it's awesome. The day was perfect. The weather was perfect. Company was perfect. It was a glorious day. No one wants a glorious day to end. No one wants the day to end. Everyone wants the day to go on. And many people say, I wish this day would never end. And they try to stay awake as long as possible because they want the day to continue. But if we carry that analogy forward, no one fears going to sleep that day. And no one is terrified of going to sleep. In fact, they go to sleep peacefully, and they know that the day was amazing. And they wake up the next morning hoping to do it all over again. Not always the day is as awesome as the previous day. Usually those amazing, splendiferous days are the exception, not the rule. But they could become the rule. The point I'm trying to make is that no one fears the idea of going to sleep. So what if we didn't fear going into death? And what if death was not the opposite of life, but death was the opposite of birth, and life was birth, death, birth? What if the world accepted the idea that that was a cycle? Well, attachment and the idea of attachment would change. How we treat the planet would change. How we treat each other would change. Many people wouldn't live their life thinking after me the flood. Most of us would be much more caring, much more responsible. You know, we go on holiday and, you know, we clean the house, we make our beds, and we leave the house nice and tidy so that when we come back from the holiday, the house is nice and well kept and it's pretty and orderly, receiving us back from holiday without a ton of work to fix the house up so that we could live in it. Well, planet Earth is probably the same thing. It's our house. And when we go on holiday into the time of death to introspect pretty much how we did those 3 moments of concentration, compassion, and analysis, sleep time and death time are the integration of life, just like the integration of the day. So accepting death as part of the birth, death, birth cycle has a tremendous impact on how we choose to live our day-to-day life. It has a positive, beneficial effect on all human beings because it would make them reconsider their acts of negligence. It would make them reconsider the damage that they could do. And maybe it would make them more responsible because they'll come back to live in the mess they left behind. So I think that would be the third thing to ponder on death.
That's amazing. You know, I was going to suggest we have a separate episode about death because, you know, we often talk about mortality is a motivation to live a life. And so, in fact, the tentative title of my book is Mortality and Motivation, but we'll see where that goes. Because, as you know, I've experienced 6 encounters with that. Trisha has had hers at a young age, and you know, this is amazing to have all these different analogies around death, because it's really the one thing that's guaranteed for life, and yet we live in this fear. So I want to, go ahead. Sorry.
Nothing. People just see death as a bad thing, and I don't think that they would see it as a bad thing if they understood its value.
Exactly. So totally agree with that. So just bringing it back to people who are listening to this, who are likely to be individuals, and we believe here that leaders need not be corporate, leaders or have business and whatever. Leaders are leaders who are aware and have a sense of responsibility to all of the things you just mentioned. And I know you've had several leadership roles, and you are a leader in your own right, as you are. What are would you say, one or two leadership lessons based on what you describe as, these practices of all of these daily practices and others? I mean, obviously they're applicable to any human being that's living on this earth. And if we just take it for a moment that everyone's a leader of some sort, what are the couple of things that you could think, if you look back at your life and say, these two major things I've learned have been the gifts of your life?
That is not a question I'm prepared to answer effectively, because I feel like I still haven't learned enough to have a definitive answer. I do think that understanding the meaning and the purpose of our lives, or my life, as I have come to understand it, for me, I'm here to evolve and to grow. It's that simple for me.
Okay.
I don't think that there is any greater meaning. I don't believe in fate. I believe that belief is a good trigger, but belief is not the same as knowing. So I think one of the qualities of accepting life as an evolutionary process is to understand the importance of belief and the danger of accepting belief as knowing. So yeah, start the process, be curious, get to a point of believing that you're right, but then move towards confirming that what you believe is true, and it is something you know to be true. Not until then should it be considered to be a knowing, and not until then it should be considered to be true. So use belief carefully, but don't accept belief as truth and or as knowing, because what ends up happening is that if most people start accepting belief as truth, then a lie could become true in practice, even though in absolute terms it's false. Many people believed the earth was flat, and it never was, but in their reality it was. And it hindered them from exploring beyond the seas because they didn't want to fall off into the abyss. Had they known all along that the earth was round, they would have never been afraid of falling off, because obviously you can't fall off a round marble. Right. So yeah, so one of the things, I guess, is to understand why you are here, and to always move from belief to knowing.
That's really amazing. Very powerful, Arie.
Yeah, that's it. You could spend a lifetime doing that.
Of course. Everything is a pursuit of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Every practice you just described is like, wow, man, if we just sustain, because there's no Olympics. This is practice.
Yeah.
It's all practice, right?
Well, there's no other game in town, mate. This is it. There's nothing else to do. Might as well give it a go. You know, use the tools that the universe has given you and put them to work.
Yep.
There it is.
There it is.
There it is. I really, there's so much. I do want to, I want to hear just one more thought about the knowing, because that's the interesting thing about the duality, is there is a knowing, and there's also the unknown. Can you speak a little bit about that too?
Yeah. So there are some questions that we will never have the answers to.
Mm-hmm.
There are some answers that we will never have. I mean, never, no matter how evolved you become. Like, how did that which created everything from the nothing come to be? Well, okay, you can ponder on that, for the next infinity and never get there, because, like the one fish told the other, hey, how's the water? The other fish is going to say, what water? So I guess there must be some measure of discernment, albeit there is nothing wrong with going after a question that you will never have the answer to, because in the process, I'm sure you will have infinite opportunities to arrive at a countless number of answers that you probably didn't even imagine you were going after. But in the pursuit of that one big question, you will learn many answers. So I guess if you want to be practical and pragmatic, your choice of pursuits from belief to knowing should be more discreet, more discerning. If you're a philosopher, your choices will be different than if you're a pragmatist. In the more practical world of business and leadership and corporate world and making money, you may believe your idea is good, but knowing your idea is good is always better. So that's what research is for. And that's what, market tests are for. That's what blind placebo pharmaceutical trials are for. So you can have a much closer understanding that what you believed at first is so. If truth is certainty in recognition of the reality, and if it is true that reality is relative, reality on this side is relative, then relativity calls for consensus, which is agreement. So truth can be absolute, but truth can also be agreed to by consensus. So there's always going to be a chasm between what is absolutely true and what is agreed to be true. The trick is to match what is absolutely true with what is agreed to be true, and that they should be the same. So belief is a mechanism by which you reach a consensus, and then through that consensus, you seek to match it with the absolute truth. How do you know what is the absolute truth? Time, research, analysis, introspection, confirmation, a telescope. It could be many things. It could be a microscope. It doesn't have to be a telescope. So use belief constructively, but don't replace belief with knowing. Otherwise, you will abandon the pursuit of knowledge.
Yeah, that resonates so much, because a lot of what we talk about is really inviting people to participate in what they know to be true, to ask more questions, to not just take whatever it is they're reading or whatever it is they're seeing on the news today as facts, because there's so many, depending on who it is you are getting your information from, there's just so many different pieces of information out there that are causing a lot of divides. And so For me, what I'm taking from what you just shared is really this. To me, one thing I know is, I know that, to go back to what you shared about number 2, this positive mental attitude and those practices, I know that by taking something negative, or a negative thought can be flipped. I know that to be true. I know that a positive thought should be grounded. That I know to be true. And so I know within me are answers I'm looking for, that it doesn't have to just be where I'm waiting for someone to tell me what I think I should know in terms of my own beingness. So people listening to this, I think, really will benefit from just checking in with themselves in this new year, in this world, because we don't have a shortage of information out there and you can get it from any source. What is our own responsibility in what information we're taking in, what we're doing with that, and then how we're sharing it.
I
Yes.
do want to ask the question one more time, the knowing versus belief. So earlier, you said the belief, you need to be careful in how you use it, because you may be believing it falsely. The other side of knowing is that you can't be aware that you just know everything, right? There's no the pursuit. So it is both sides of what you think you know versus what you think you believe have to be chosen carefully, so that you pursue something with real authenticity for you, and not have judgments and assumptions that go along with I know, right? That sort of thing. So is that fair to say it that way?
Yeah, I think that people marry their beliefs, and what they believe becomes their truth.
Mm.
And what I'm working towards is to understand that I have my beliefs, but my beliefs are not the truth. My beliefs are the path I am on towards the truth. And the only way to arrive at that truth is through a series of experiences, confirmation with other people who share a similar belief.
Mm-hmm.
And over time, maybe I get confirmation in a absolute certain manner that my belief is so, or maybe I do not. But I don't take it for granted that my beliefs are just that. They are beliefs.
Right.
And if we can all accept the fact that many of our beliefs are just that, and they aren't necessarily true, one would be more tolerant of other people's points of view. One would have more patience for a discerning view, or a dissenting view, or a different point of view, or a disagreeing perspective. If you knew that your beliefs weren't true, then you would be open.
Yes.
And you'd be accepting of a different point of view that might confirm that you're right or wrong.
Yes. Right. We've had many conversations where we celebrate whenever we've proven ourselves wrong. And I mean, it happened a couple of months ago where I voted in a way I never imagined I would. And so I called Raju and I said, wow, everything I thought about me to be true, or I believed about me to be true, I don't know who I am today. And that's really exciting. It actually was a very, for me, it felt very positive that I don't have to your words, be married to what I believed before, that in this present moment, I can practice discernment and be able to choose differently. And I'm okay. I'm still me. I'm still whole. And it was a moment of growth.
It was a bold and conscious move.
Yeah. It sure was.
Well, we certainly seek to practice what we preach. So, um,
Good for you.
yeah.
Good for you.
So,
Keep doing that, and you will teach other people that they don't have to be who they've always been.
I know. So we really appreciate this. So, one last thing. I know there's always so much learning, wisdom. We know that there's nothing, not a moment to be taken for granted anywhere. So certainly I have learned a lot from you. I'm sure we
As I have, yes.
And learning never stops. It's a co-creative process. So we, our audience also don't take anything for granted. And that's the kind of thing we want to build for our audience as well going forward. So we really, really appreciate your presence here. And in that context, what discoveries might you've had in this call here or in this conversation, if any?
That there are more of us out there than we think.
Whoa.
I felt that.
I just felt like a woof.
I felt that, Arie.
and that the people listening are in that ripple effect of you, and hopefully us, that we're really causing a wave that's going to expand.
Yeah.
So I really appreciate you, my friend. And so every time I talk with you or hear you, I feel like I'm growing leaps and bounds. So we really
takes one to know one, mate. I feel the same, and I do find that we are always attracted to like energy and resonant energy. So we shall meet again, and again, and again.
And again,
and
yeah.
again. And in the process of death and birth, we shall meet again.
Yes. So keep the light on, keep the torch lit, and let the light shine so that everyone can see how special they all are and how powerful we can all be together.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you so much, Arie. This really has just been an hour plus of just heart and truth sharing.
Mm-hmm.
Really beautiful. We're so excited that you were able to join us today, and we were able to have this conversation. And I appreciate you for saying what you said right before we went into the third thing, which was the topic about relationship with death. You said, I'm going to go to the extreme here. I got super excited in that moment.
Yeah,
that was really that whole piece right there. I'm going to be playing that back and listening to that, because there's just so much value there. And you're absolutely right. More people would benefit and really be able to set themselves free if they were to be able to shift their beliefs around death.
Or the fear of, and all this uncertainty.
It has the potential of redefining what it is to be a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, on that note, thank you so much. And Arie, don't,
friends, stay strong.
Take good care.
Thank you, Arie.
Take care.
Take care. We hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if so, make sure to subscribe, download, and share it with your sphere of influence.
We bring a variety of topics to you, and it's like a masterclass for those topics, and it's all free.
So take a screenshot, share it on your social media, and add the hashtag #BoldConsciousConnections so that we can find you, see you, maybe say hello.
And if you want to deep dive into some of the topics that we bring to you, find us at www.livemasterminds.com and get to know us.
Take care.